So, if you're not a subscriber to our Patreon RSS audio, you missed a rousing discussion of spoilers between Patrick and I.
I'm a proponent of not watching trailers, and Tom is berating me for it.
That is not true. But how you won't be able to know unless you subscribe to our Patreon and get the RSS feed.
That is not true, or is it?
Or is it?
You know what we should do? We should build a trailer for this episode.
Oh, you wouldn't watch it, though.
Actually.
You wouldn't be able to watch it.
I wouldn't, but some people might enjoy it.
Oh, you know what that was from? Why is my internet so slow? It's all this talk of trailers.
It's all of your malware that you run. Not that you've been infected by, but that you deploy to other people.
I wish. I wish. I wish upon...
Aw, the chat room says our favorite Frenchman is back.
I saw. It made me happy.
That's not an insult to say Frenchman, is it?
It wouldn't be. I mean, it's not because saying American is an insult that Frenchman has to be as well.
Well, but it's Frenchman, right? Rather than just French person.
Well, it's interesting because if you say...
I am a man, so...
It's interesting because if you say China man, that's considered offensive.
Well, that's because it's not how you call a person from China.
But you could just, because you say Chinese. Person. But is there? Can you just say you're a French? I mean, that's kind of...
Well, clearly not. I don't think that's how you say it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Hey, this Patrick, he's a French. Then it sounds like an insult.
That's the one that sounds like an insult.
Yeah. French yourself. What are you trying to say?
I'll French you. All right. I think we're good.
Sorry. Yeah, this is from the CNBC, and it was from their quotes page. I can delete that portion of it.
All right. I'm going to get ready to go. You guys ready to go?
I was born ready.
That's I've heard that somewhere.
Oh, wait a minute. I need control.
Where?
Do I have control?
Hold on.
I was born ready.
Oh, there. That's where I heard it.
Oh.
All right. You have control.
Okay.
Here we go.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out how you can help power the show, visit dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, April 18th, 2017. I'm Todd Merritt. That 8 in April 18th stands for Patrick Beja is back. Thought I was going to say F8.
Oh, what a fateful day for me to be back on the show.
To have our mate back with us.
I'm out.
Yeah, me too, thankfully. These are almost as bad as the jokes Mark Zuckerberg made about Fate of the Furious and F8 at the beginning of his keynote today. We are, of course, going to talk about the F8 conference and the announcements that Facebook made there. That is our main topic today. The brief version, if for some reason you don't make it through to the end of the show, we hope you do, is that augmented reality is the future, and they've got improvements for the bot platform on Messenger. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. AMD revealed its lineup of Radeon RX 500 graphics cards Tuesday. It's a little more overhead for overclocking. Not a whole lot of other changes over the 400 series, ranging in price from $80 to $230 per card.
Snapchat announced World Lenses, an augmented reality function that can add 3D virtual objects to any scene.
I did one today. It was throwing seeds that would land and turn into flowers. And I surrounded Ray the dog with flowers in Snapchat. Microsoft has agreed to buy Intentional Software, which will see its founder, Charles Simonyi, return to Microsoft. He's one of the guys that helped build Excel and Word. So welcome back.
You know,
Charles?
Intentional software is so much better than unintentional software.
That's why they started it, yeah. Now here are some more top stories. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, who, as you may know from listening to the show, has an excellent track record on this sorts of thing, and Bloomberg's Min Jong Lee teamed up on a report showing sources telling them that Apple will announce 3 models of iPhone this fall. That reinforces a lot of other analysts and leaks. 2 upgrades to the iPhone 7 and a special 10th anniversary edition. The design of the special edition has supposedly not been determined yet because Apple's having problems figuring out the manufacturing of the curved glass and the fingerprint sensor. The idea is to have curved glass with an embedded fingerprint sensor over an OLED screen, but whether they're going to have a steel band or whether they're going to have aluminum on the back, that's the part they haven't finished up deciding yet, and they need to get those factory orders in. They are going to have an OLED screen, according to these sources, and Apple has apparently ordered around 100 million OLED screens from Samsung and is, as usual, sourcing their cameras from Sony.
Just 100 million. That's whatever. But so it seems to confirm that the fingerprint sensor under the screen is going to happen. And on the other hand, the fact that the design is not finalized might explain all of the back and forth rumors that we've heard for the past few months, and I'm sure are going to keep coming and are making people like Mark Gurman and Bloomberg very happy for clicks.
For being able to keep putting out stories. Fingerprint sensor may not happen, though, if they can't figure this out. And then the speculation becomes, and we're not saying that either one of these guys have sources on that, but the speculation becomes, do they give up on the all-glass screen, or the all-screen front? Do they move the fingerprint sensor to the back? That's what Samsung did with the S8. Or would they just abandon the fingerprint sensor and do some sort of other biometric, like 3D sensing for unlock? None of those sound like an option in this case, which is probably why Apple's having so much difficulty with this.
I think if they don't manage to make it work, it's going to be a very unfavorable comparison to the S8, to the Galaxy S8, because basically all of the features that were rumored for the 10th anniversary edition of the iPhone seem to have been integrated into the S8. So if they don't have something to differentiate, I think a lot of people are going to say, well, that's old news.
And the competitive side, the S8 is universally getting good reviews and will be on the market for longer, the longer they take to put out a new iPhone.
Talking about Samsung, they say that they have removed the ability to remap the to remap the button meant for the Bixby Assistant to do other things. Philip Byrne, who runs the reviews program at Samsung, tweeted that the system-level behavior was changed and Samsung won't officially support the remapping. XDA reports one user says they have a fully updated S8, which still has the ability to remap the button using the accessibility feature. So probably not officially supported, but maybe possible to do anyway?
Well, it was possible to do. A lot of people are saying suddenly it's not possible to do, and the guy from Samsung saying, yeah, we changed that. The XDA report of one user saying they still have it makes me think that maybe they aren't as fully updated as they think they are, or there might be something else going on there. But if I understand this right, the way it was working is that Bixby button was being read by the system as an arrow button, and you could go into accessibility knowing that and reprogram the arrow button to not launch Bixby anymore, but to do something else, like launch Cortana, for instance, is what some people were doing. And so Samsung has changed that, so the accessibility system no longer sees that Bixby button. And basically what Philip Byrne is saying is, we didn't do it to thwart you. It could come back if for some reason we change the accessibility system in the future, but if we do, we're not doing it on purpose either way.
Yeah, I'm a little bit... I don't see how this wouldn't be factored into a willful decision of blocking it or allowing it, because it's kind of a big deal on the phone where the assistant, and the Bixby assistant specifically, is sold as such a big part of the overall experience, and especially now that the Bixby Assistant isn't available in English for launch. And I mean, it becomes a thing. It's not just, well, we don't really think about it. I don't buy that quite, as
well.
much
Let
as
me give
maybe
you the scenario, and this is probably, I'm thinking this is probably pretty close to the truth. The scenario is, no, you're right, Samsung doesn't like the idea of people reprogramming the Bixby Assistant, and at the same time, one of the engineers who becomes aware of this goes, oh, that's not the way the accessibility system is supposed to work. They shouldn't be able to do that. This engineer doesn't care about whether the Bixby button can be reprogrammed or not. He just sees it as a fault in the implementation of accessibility. He goes and says, or she goes and says, let's implement a fix to that. And their upper heads say, yeah, you definitely should implement that fix, which totally has nothing to do with the Bixby button because we don't like that Bixby button being reprogrammed anyway. So yeah, let's make sure that happens. Let's put that P1 on the list, right? So it's both. It's both someone, the fact that this can be done, alerting them to a flaw in the way they implemented things, and people who don't want Bixby to be reprogrammed lending their support to getting it fixed soon.
It makes sense.
Google Earth is back with version 9, designed to run in a web browser. By the way, there's now 3 working versions of Google Earth, depending on whether you're using an app on the desktop or this or that. Version 9 can be found at earth.google.com/web. The Voyager section features 360-degree videos, guided tours, some of them hosted by people from the BBC or Sesame Street's The Muppets, other scientific experts. There's now an I'm Feeling Lucky button that will take you to a random point on Earth and give you an info card based on info gleaned from Wikipedia, similar to the way the cards show up in Google search. It's the same sort of thing. Current version works in the Chrome browser. They do say they're going to add support for other browsers, and there's also an Android app, and they do say they're going to add an iOS app.
You know, Google Earth is still very cool. A lot of the functions have sort of been somewhat integrated into maps, but there's something quite magical about looking at the Earth and going anywhere you want with that format. And they've added a lot of the discovery exploration elements to it and make them more fun. I didn't think I was going to like whatever they were going to do with Google Earth, which honestly I didn't expect them to do anything with Google Earth at this point. But I kind of enjoyed it. So I think it's a very useful and fun tool, maybe, you know, for adults for sure, but maybe for kids as well, to show them, maybe not every single time go to YouTube and put them in front of an animated thing, but also you can show them Google Earth and walk around. And incidentally, it also shows you some YouTube videos sometimes when they link to those, you know, places where they have interesting stuff. So it brings in everything together from Google. But
yeah,
it's cool.
I hope they bring it all into one version. Right now, it's Google Earth version 8 that's still in Maps, separate from Google Earth version 9 here that just came out, and also Google Earth version 7 on the desktop, which has, I think, Google Mars and Google Moon, and those are the only way to get that now. So you have to have an older version to get some of the features that they haven't rolled in. I hope they end up rolling it all into this new version.
Is it really? I can't get Earth on Maps. Oh,
yeah,
maybe if you click on the Earth button.
Well, you just said there's Google Earth stuff that's been rolled into Maps. That's version 8 stuff that's in there. And
but
some
you
of
don't
those,
get the globe.
No, you don't get the... Well, no, you don't.
Okay. Talking about the globe, the Olympic Council of Asia said it will include esports in the 2022 Asian Games in Hangzhou, China. Esports will also feature as a demonstration sport in the 2018 Asian Games in Jakarta, Indonesia. The decisions come from a partnership between Alibaba's Alisports and the Olympic Council of Asia. The first appearance will be at the Asian Indoor and Martial Arts Games, AIMAG, in Turkmenistan, which will include FIFA 2017, MOBA, and RTA games. And first of all, I never miss an opportunity to talk about Turkmenistan. Look it up. It's an interesting country. And RTAs are basically time attacks for speedrunners. So that's a very specific kind of esport.
Real-time attack. That's what RTA stands for, I'm guessing. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. You know, the reason I wanted to talk about this is that yesterday you were talking about robots at street corners and how normal that felt after just a little bit of experience with them. I think for esports, it's getting to the same thing. If you remember, we had a number of stories maybe 1 or 2 years ago where people were bewildered and sometimes outraged that esports could be considered something of a sport. Now, of course, in Asia, esports are really important, especially in Korea and China and some other countries. So it feels natural that if it does seep its way into regular sports, it would be there that it starts happening. But it's still interesting that it's happening at that level.
Yeah, this is the steps to the Olympics, right? First appearance in the indoor games in Turkmenistan. Then they take what they learn on putting on that event and make it a demo sport. So you can't medal in it officially, but you do that at the 2018 Asian Games in Jakarta. And then you make it an official sport in 2022. The step after that is, hey, we've got the Olympic Council in Asia doing esports. Maybe we get the Olympic Council somewhere else, maybe North America, maybe Europe also doing it. And then you can lobby for it to be included in the full-on Olympic Games. I mean, we're talking the 2030s possibly before this would happen, but you could be seeing people gold medal in MOBAs in the Olympics in the 2030s.
If MOBAs are still the thing.
If they are.
That's kind of an interesting aspect of esports. Unlike regular sports, they change every 5 or 10 years. The most popular one, which is the one people care the most about, rotate, and they coming in and out of fashion. So that's going to be interesting to see how they handle that as well.
All right, a couple of earnings reports to get to real quickly before we talk about F8. IBM reported revenue of $18.16 billion. That was under the $18.39 billion expected. $2.38 a share versus $2.35 a share that was expected. So they beat on earnings, missed on revenue. 1% gain in earnings per share and a 3% decline in revenue from a year ago, according to IBM. This is the 20th straight quarter of year-over-year revenue declines for IBM. Companies reorganized around businesses like cloud, analytics, mobility, and security. Back in 2016, those strategic imperatives represented more than 40% of total revenue, according to Ginny Rometty. So they're not doing bad, but it still hasn't turned back around for IBM. It's a big old battleship that Ginny Rometty is trying to move there. And Yahoo earnings came in $1.33 billion, beating $1.23 billion estimated revenues. So that's good news for them. Also beat on net revenue, $833.8 million versus the expected $814, and beat on earnings per share, 18 cents a share versus 14 cents. So, I mean, Yahoo is going to become part of Verizon shortly. So these are the waning earnings reports, but still good news for Verizon there, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in less than 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to our other show. It's the perfect pairing to keep you up to date, dailytechheadlines.com. So we're going to run through all the F8 announcements here for you folks and give our impressions of them. Not necessarily doing them in chronological order, although it's pretty close. Going from what we think are the more important announcements first. And Mark Zuckerberg kicked this thing off by making a plea that community and augmented reality are the two big things in Facebook's future. And he talked quite a bit about how, hey, we used to be about hooking up friends. Now we want to move into being more civic minded, more community minded, above not just your circle of friends, but connecting more than just circles of friends. That was a lot of highfalutin, here's where we're going rhetoric. But on the more grounded side, he announced an augmented reality platform called Camera Effects, coming to anything that uses Facebook Camera on smartphones in closed beta today. So you have to apply to get in, but if you're in, you can start using it today. Eventually, it'll be compatible with future augmented reality hardware. Zuckerberg said that accusations of Facebook copying Snapchat were misunderstandings of laying the groundwork for Facebook's new Camera Effects platform. And he said that today shows that we've moved on beyond just adding features. They made Frame Studio available globally, so anybody can use it to create a static filter to upload and appear in a Facebook camera on their friends or a page's fans page. And AR Studio lets developers create custom effects onto real-time face tracking. Developers can apply for early access to the closed beta for AR Studio starting today. Patrick, what did you make of this, especially the part about not just augmented reality platform being the future of Facebook, but also shows how they're not just ripping off Snapchat when they put all the Snapchat features into Instagram?
I would say that I understand how, this is technically different. But really, I'm not a Snapchat expert, but the thing I'm seeing is really just a number of different ways of putting, virtual hats on people's faces when they're being filmed or taken pictures of. And it's kind of a distinction without a difference. This is still, to me, even with this explanation, a Snapchatization of the features of Facebook that can be applied where it can be applied, and even maybe some where it can't be applied, it's being forced in.
A lot of the stuff they demonstrated on stage was not something I could do in Snapchat today. And they're trying to show that, like, hey, now that we're unleashing it for developers, we're going to move well past feature imitation.
Right. No, I understand that. And yes, that's why I'm saying, technically it's not the same thing. You're not using the same technology to get to that result. There's a lot of 3D and a lot of tracking but still the result is that you're taking a picture and you're adding effects and apparel and stuff to the people in the picture. And maybe it can be used in the future to do other things in more strictly AR that are going to have other applications. I'm guessing maybe, but I don't think they showed that in those examples. They really just showed, super Snapchat, that's how I saw it.
It starts to become an argument about Facebook also didn't invent social networking. Does that matter? Yet Friendster started this revolution, and MySpace picked it up, and Facebook perfected it. It's the person who perfects it that gets to carry on with it. And
of course.
When you look at I can't remember the analytics company that announced the top 5 worldwide non-game apps. They are Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Snapchat. Snapchat is number 5. So you can make an argument that, sure, Snapchat may have led this revolution. They certainly weren't the first to ever provide an image sending app, but sending images is hot. It's what people want to do right now.
Well, I'm not saying, I'm not faulting Facebook for doing it. If anything, I think it's Mark Zuckerberg's genius of sensing early enough what's working on other platforms and copying it in a way that works for Facebook. I think that is absolutely to his credit. He's been doing it for 10 years and incredibly successfully in every aspect of the platform. But still, when he comes out and says, we're not copying Snapchat, people didn't really understand what we were doing. We're just laying the groundwork for this and that. And I'm like,
what's he supposed to say?
I'm not really well, don't say anything. I don't think, when they started copying, some other features, when they pulled out.
A little oversensitive is what you're saying.
Yeah. Right. Honestly, it doesn't matter all that much, but it was funny.
I think the other thing that's interesting here too is he's talking about images, not necessarily video. Remember last F8, it was all about live and video, and we're a video company. Today, they talked about themselves as if they're a camera company, which is what Snap always says about themselves.
Yeah, I think, in this sense, I can understand how this is more of the beginning of this, feature set. And augmented reality, I can absolutely imagine how it would have many other applications, and maybe they move away at some point, or not move away, but add to just tracking faces and putting funny glasses and hats on them, and go into overlaying information on whatever
like the
AR
jogging app where you could actually see pace of your friend as while they're running and stuff like that. Was kind of cool.
A million different things that developers are going to be able to implement if it ever comes to reality with the the AR dream actually happens. And maybe that's what he's thinking about when he's saying we're laying down the groundwork for all of this. But I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah, and I still think it's significant that we did not hear them talk about Facebook Live today.
Anecdotally, I think it's not. I mean, I haven't seen it get the kind of traction that one would expect when Facebook does something with its billions of users and the kind of aggressive moves that they've been doing in that area.
Today, Facebook Spaces released in beta in the Oculus store. So this, to your point about actual virtual reality type situations, that's happening too. Facebook Spaces was shown at F8 last year as sort of a thing in progress. Now you'll be able to try it out. So instead of like the AR Studio where it's limited. This is for everybody to try, and they're like, it's only 1% done. It's not there yet, folks, but we want you to play around with it. An AI generates your avatar to be as close to your profile photo as possible. You can do some tweaks on it, though. Up to 4 friends can log in and share a space at once and share the same virtual space. And, do things like, oh, here's my apartment I took a 360-degree video of. Let me show you around the new apartment I got, stuff like that. You can also do 3D video calls on Messenger with people not in VR. So you can be in VR and then send a 360-degree video to somebody who's on a phone. Facebook eventually wants to bring this to other VR platforms as well.
Yeah, so it's not going to be only for Oculus, although the touch controller was making it really work with the way it would mimic your hand movements. For some reason, that would make it, more real in a sense than if you don't have that kind. It's very specific to these types of controllers. But this one I'm a little bit more interested in. AR is going to be, is potentially going to be really important. I think this could be a big part of the future of the platform of Facebook in itself. I think that the way they phrased it was, this is basically 0.1% of Facebook's vision for the future of what virtual reality is going to be, trying to say basically this is really just the beginning. And I could absolutely see this kind of thing. This is the first time that I've seen an implementation of virtual space that doesn't look completely ridiculous and useless to me. And that's a huge achievement, I think.
Yeah.
You could see how in the future, when devices become small enough that they're not cumbersome, you could use this potentially to hang out. And that is basically what Facebook is, right? It's hanging out with people in text form. This could make it hanging out in virtual presence form, and that could be, as I was saying, a really big part of what Facebook becomes in the future.
And I think it makes sense that you put AR Studio behind a private beta, because honestly, one of the coolest things about the AR stuff is, hey, I could leave a note for my friend in virtual space and then only she'll see it. I could leave a note on the fridge for my wife and only she'll see it. That only really works if you don't have to hold your phone up to see it, right? Like part of it is not having to remember, I wonder if there's a note for me there. I better hold my, right? So whereas Spaces feels like something like, hey, if I do have an Oculus or one of the other VR headsets when it gets compatible, that's something that I'm willing to do. I have friends that I'm playing games with in virtual reality, so we can hang out and chat afterwards in Spaces. That's a logical thing to have people try, and you're only going to get better at it when you have more people trying it and telling you what else they want to do with it.
Yeah. And this is still, I mean, as promising as it might be, this is still a long ways off, as everything VR. If we're talking about like mass market, it's not, this year, next year.
You mean perfection of it and adoption of
right,
it.
Right. Yeah. For people to actually want to hang out in virtual spaces, there's so much that needs to happen first still, that it's not going to be, for everyone anytime soon.
This is usually a minor note for most people's coverage of F8, but I think it's significant. Facebook is expanding its encrypted account recovery token service beyond just GitHub. They launched it with GitHub to let you store a login token on Facebook. It's sort of a two-factor authentication. Basically, you forget your password, you can request Facebook provide a token to log you in. An SDK will let developers set up a delegated account recovery program and apply to Facebook to start making the feature available to its users. System is important for regions like Africa, Asia Pacific, where a phone number is an unstable second factor identifier. So they're not going to use email in a lot of these cases. They only are going to use SMS, and they might have multiple SIM cards. They might change their phone numbers frequently. So having another way to do this, and Facebook is, especially in Africa, fairly popular. This could be an essential thing for companies to provide as an account recovery system.
Yeah, it's really interesting because as much as we want to fight Facebook's ubiquity, this kind of makes sense. And I could absolutely imagine having multiple services linked to Facebook in that way, so that, just in case something happens, then yes, of course, you have to lock up, your Facebook account pretty tight with 2FA and everything. But I'm doing this right now with password managers, and there's always a little bit of a, for some people, I think it's going to make sense. And then Facebook becomes a tool for other things than just communication and information sharing. And I think that might be a significant step for Facebook. Maybe at some point they're going to start providing other types of services that make them even more embedded in our digital
That's
life.
my worry, right? Is I don't want Facebook to be the only place where you can do this. I like this idea. I think it's a good idea, and people who are smarter than me have looked over the security of it and said it's well implemented. I want there to be a federated system where I don't have to rely on Facebook for this. I tend to use Facebook to log into things that I don't care about. That's my new throwaway password, right? But I don't like using Facebook to log in things I do care about because I don't want them to be my one single point of failure for all my logins. And so while I would like to take advantage of using this, I want to have multiple options. Facebook launched group bots and a bot discovery tab to Messenger. It's time to play Did They Impress Patrick? AR, not so much. VR did impress you. How about this? Chat extensions lets you use Messenger bots in a group chat. OpenTable, the NBA, Food Network, Wall Street Journal, and others are launching group bots today. So you can follow along with scores, things like that. A discovery tab will show recently used bots so that you can find them easier. You can browse bots by category, like a store. You can see trending bots that other people are using, and you can search for bots now. Users can see a preview screen of a bot before interacting with it if they're trying to decide whether they want to engage or not. Messenger also got a game tab to access game bots and rich gameplay that allows for turn-by-turn games. You can also now scan QR codes into Messenger if you want to engage with a bot based on something you're looking at in real life.
So I don't know if I would say I'm impressed, but I'm definitely intrigued by the idea of having a bot in a group conversation, because then it's not someone, quote unquote, that you're talking to trying to get answers. It becomes a looming presence listening to what everything you're saying, to what you're saying, and then suggesting stuff or butting in here and there, saying, "Hey, I think you might be interested in this." And
would you like to use your PayPal to send that money?
Yeah,
I was like, no, I just
exactly.
said make it rain. I don't actually need to pay anything.
Exactly. So I think it's a very intriguing, different kind of interaction with the bots that could be either fun or really annoying.
Yeah. No. And I think what they're trying to do is make it easier to discover these bots and decide which ones you are willing to engage with and which ones you aren't. Facebook announced its workplace product, that's its Slack competitor, is in use in about 14,000 organizations. That's up from 1,000 last year. Facebook's working to make Workplace compatible with existing compliance and e-discovery tools. That's a fancy buzzword for finding the documents you need at the workplace. Developers can now build bots to run inside Workplace chat and groups to automate common processes. Facebook has also added integration to Microsoft OneDrive and Box, among others. Workplace Standard Edition will be available for free. This is a big shot across Slack's bow. Facebook plans on charging only for administrative controls, IT tools, and integrations with G Suite, Azure, and other enterprise services like that. So they're basically saying you're a small-time business, use Workplace until you get big enough that you need more admin controls.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty important change, and they're also talking about it enough that they are actually committed to making it work. Work.
In the place.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that amused me the most was the compliance thing, because obviously compliance is a big thing for big companies. And when you're Facebook and you're saying, hey, let's just use Facebook, all of a sudden you have a lot of other things you have to consider, and compliance is really important. And so that's something I'm guessing they didn't really think about when they first launched it, but it is very important for the companies.
Yeah. Facebook Analytics also got an upgrade. New custom dashboards put important reports on a single screen, lets users put what's important to them up front. Facebook's also adding some machine learning to surface trends and present them to users in a ranked feed. There's also new ways to connect page activity with online and offline purchases. That's the kind of thing that is super important if you're somebody who uses these analytics and engages with Facebook all the time. But most of us probably don't need to see it. Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Before we get out of here, we get a perspective every week from Patrick, whether he's in France or Finland. But we don't often enough get a UK perspective. For that, you want to check out Text Message with Nate Langston. What's happening at Text Message this week, Nate?
Thanks, Tom. This week we learned how one of our nation's biggest broadband providers, Virgin Media, they're sort of like your Comcast, are going to turn people's home Wi-Fi routers into public Wi-Fi hotspots. We also learned that the UK's long-time love of contactless credit and debit cards now mean that fewer than perhaps 1% of the entire population here are using things like Apple Pay and Android Pay. All that discussed and more, and it's available at techpodcast.uk. Back to you.
I keep waiting for an explosion in contactless payment like Apple Pay and Android Pay. And it seems like the financial institutions...
Galaxy Note 7. An explosion.
Oh. Not that kind of explosion. I guess I got my wish. I just didn't realize it. I
agree.
That's very interesting. You got to check out techpodcast.uk. And also Virgin Media definitely sounds very much like Comcast, because Comcast did exactly the same thing with trying to use people's Wi-Fi access points for wireless service. Well, thank you, Patrick Beja, as always, for joining us. What you got going on these days?
I guess my the usual, the shows I do at FrenchSpin.com. We just recorded an episode of Le Rendezvous Tech. If you're done with Nate's podcast and this one, you can go try to listen to tech news in French. That's available at FrenchSpin.fr, actually. It's like F8, but with an R. And listen to Le Rendezvous Tech. And you can also follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. I'm not Patrick on both of those platforms.
Hey, thanks to everybody who gives a little value back to this show for the value they get from the show, including Dave Walton, Richard Montoya, Todd Madison, and so many, many more at patreon.com/DTNS. Remember, every dollar you give to us is making the show happen. You are the person behind the show. So thank you for producing this show. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Missed him last week, too. Talk to you then.
About this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
I went classic on the Frog Pants thing. Old school. What do we got for titles? How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Button.
Augmented bots. All quiet on the screen front.
On the all screen front.
Trouble keeping users from remapping your buttons. Just ask Apple. Facebook's F8 of the Union. Fate of the Union.
Oh, Facebook's Fate. I like State of the Union. Okay, I get it.
Like a Bixby gathered on the keyboard. Spaces book. Augmented bots, Bixby's. State of the Bixby button, S8, state of the iPhone. These
Put it this way, Roger. Do you like any of these?
I like Facebook's Fate of the Union. It's probably
Facebook's Fate of the Union. Yeah, now that I get it, I like that one too. Patrick, do you like any of these?
I wasn't looking. Nothing jumped at me from what Roger was saying, though. Was that your...
That was me imitating one of them jumping at you. Well, if you had to title the show, what would you call it?
I would call it a F8-ful day.
I actually really like that.
Well, there you go. It's this one's on me. This one's for me. You can do it.
Sometimes we just have to go to the hosts. It's fine. It's fine. We share the love. Move it around. KV87 can claim win of the show bot, if that's important for Facebook's Fate of the Union. Oh, TVZ Gun just submitted a fateful day so that he can get credit. Fate of the Furious Zuckerberg. So,
Travis,
is it a fateful day or an F8-ful day?
I would say
fateful day.
fateful day. Yeah.
All right, just to force people to pronounce it that way. Well, cool. So let me tell you all about the trailer.
I'm gonna hang up.
It had a scene and then another scene and then there was a scene.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Tom.
No. It was a trailer.
Tom.
They played it. It was in video. See, this is less fun for me because I want to talk all about it.
Well,
I know.
I'm gonna leave, and then you can talk all about it too.
No, don't leave.
And also, now you've given me the information that the movie is not just one continuous uncut scene.
I've totally spoiled it for you. Well, it could be. It could be one uncut scene in the trailer. Cut out pieces of that one uncut scene. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. That's okay.
Who's to say? They did tell us who every. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't tell us anything. I'm excited about the next season of Star Wars Rebels too.
It ended really well.
This
I liked
season
it.
ended well, yeah.
To me, that is still the best Star Wars active Star Wars property they have.
Really?
Yeah.
Better than any of the movies?
Story-wise, I think it is far beyond the movies at this point.
What? Are we talking spoilers?
No, he's saying Star Wars Rebels, the series, is better, in his opinion, than the movies.
I watched a little bit of it. Didn't grab me, but I watched like one episode. It's really good.
It's 2D, though, so it wouldn't grab you. Actually, it's 3D animation. What am I saying?
Oh, there you go.
Should have grabbed you. Should have ripped itself right out of the screen.
There's a lot of growth in the characters that you really... I mean, you kind of didn't really even get that in the original trilogy. I mean, yeah, Luke Skywalker, but really it was just more of a walk through the hero steps by numbers.
Yeah,
The hero's
maybe I should
journey.
give it a try. Another try.
I like it a lot. The first season
Everyone likes it, I think.
does feel very 7+ at points.
Yeah.
But it still has really good episodes in season 1, and it just gets better from there.
Yeah, I mean, originally they targeted at a younger audience, and so the plots were kind of geared that way.
Yeah.
But it's really good. Like, even I was amazed at how much I enjoyed them.
I actually really like that they've decided to end it after season 4. They're like, it's just going to be 4 seasons. That's it.
That's the way to do it.
Beginning, 2 middles, and an end.
You know, that was my complaint against the Clone Wars. I liked it. They did really good writing, but it just felt like it just dragged on. Like, okay.
So wait, which one is this one? Rebels?
Rebels. This one takes place.
Yeah. I refuse to talk about the movie for fear of saying something I regret.
The Star Wars Rebels, which is on Disney XD, operates in the same time period of the 4th movie, A New Hope, but with a different cast of characters.
Well, no, it actually it precedes Rogue One.
Oh, that's right, it does.
Yeah. So it's near to New Hope,
yeah,
but it's not actually in the same.
It's
time.
in between New Hope and the Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the show. It was fun.
It was good to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you to the chat room, and I'm glad that you guys appreciated my Note 7 joke, unlike some other people in the conversation.
It just took me a moment. That's all.
Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
All right, cheers. Almost done with the export. Okay, so let's talk all about Star Wars the movie. Now that Patrick's gone, his anti-spoiler ways.
I kind of given up because people talk about it, and Like if I haven't seen it, I'll just shrug my shoulders. Like, okay, I guess I'll catch it eventually. It's hard. There's just so many things. Like the Thor movie trailer for the upcoming Thor movie looks great, and this is the one thing that's been bugging me about so much of the Marvel movie releases of late is that this is the first one that I've seen since the Avengers that feels like it's going to be fun, like fun with a capital F.
What? You didn't think Guardians was fun?
Oh, and Guardians. That's the other one.
Okay.
So those two. So
What about Ant-Man?
I didn't like Ant-Man at all.
Right.
You know
It
what
was
it
trying
is?
to
It
be
could
fun.
it could just be it's Paul Rudd, right? That's his name, the actor.
You don't like Paul Rudd?
I just seems miscast.
Yeah, I'm on the fence of whether I liked Ant-Man, but I don't know if I would call it fun. It was fun in parts, though.
But there's a thing, and it's kind of funny because it's kind of like ice cream. It's something appeals to the eyes and taste buds. Guardians of the Galaxy is really fun. It doesn't really stay with you, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It stayed with me.
Oh, did it?
I think you're right about most people, though. I kept watching it over and over again.
Oh, I watched it once. I didn't need to see it again.
I watched it twice in the theater and like a bunch of times on demand once it came to digital.
Eileen, look, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, Tom.
I actually bought the Blu-ray. I almost never buy an actual physical disc.
Yeah, I had to buy one for Rogue One because I missed it in the theater.
Yeah, but you could have bought a digital copy. You wouldn't have had to buy the Blu-ray.
Yeah, kind of. Now that I think about it, I should have maybe done that instead. For some reason, I'm not sure.
That's what I did with Rogue One and Force Awakens.
I'm not sure if it's the Xbox, but there's a transition point where the video just kind of gets really artifacty. Like there used to be a layer change on DVDs, but that would cause the video to pause for like a millisecond, and it's maybe something similar. I don't know. I thought the disc was damaged, but I looked at it. It was fine. But I get that ultraviolet digital download. I can do that too. But anyways, I watched the movie. I watched it.
You finally saw it. And what did you think?
It did not. If I liked it as a movie, it did not feel like a Star Wars movie. It just felt like a movie with a lot of Star Wars trappings.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of what they were going for. At least until the very end.
So this is my thing with Star Wars, and I'm probably going to draw a lot of ire from the audience. But I realize that Star Wars is basically a lot of daddy issue, father, son or daughter issues.
Yeah, for sure.
Like all of them.
Well, that's the entire Skywalker storyline.
It's not just even Skywalker, right? It's the thing with from Rogue One.
Well, and they did it with Jyn Erso. You're right.
Jyn, and they also do it in Star Wars Rebels with
Ezra.
And Ezra.
That's not so much a daddy issue. That's like abandonment issue.
No, not with his parents, but with.
Well, but I don't know if I count Ezra in there. That's just being a teenager. Yeah, he's rebelling against.
But it's this weird. I'm not saying that they all play out the same, but that's the crux of the issue. Is kind of this father-son master. Even the Jedi.
But that is absolutely the Skywalker story. You're right. And then they did it with Jyn Erso as well.
Yeah. And then they're going to do it with Boba Fett, right? Because what does he do? Oh, my dad's running around without a head now.
Maybe they won't do it with Han Solo. We never hear about Han Solo's dad at all.
Except Han Solo got it from his son, and he fell off.
His son had a daddy issue.
See, everyone has issues. They're all daddy.
Well, okay, that's a legitimate storyline, though.
No, I'm not.
You seem to be complaining about it.
No, it just seems like it's the only. It's just a theme in all of them. All of them. It's if the Great Galactic Rebellion was just one giant.
It's not in the Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
And I don't think it really is in Rebels. I don't know if
I'm trying to think of the one in. Maybe it's more of the father side. Like, I spawned a huge army of clones.
Now you're starting to stretch like young person rebelling against their teacher into daddy issue, and that's not necessarily the same thing. I think Anakin rebelled against Obi-Wan's instruction, but that wasn't necessarily a daddy issue. You just start talking about like the human.
He didn't have a daddy though.
Right.
That could have been the issue.
It was definitely an issue for me.
Uh,
All right. Well, we are good. We are published. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Have a lovely day. And we'll see you then.